All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Grandmaster Magesh Panchanathan, and this is Kings and Queens Chess Academy's game analysis by a Grandmaster session. Welcome, everyone, to the show. We will get started in a couple of minutes. I will be asking a question, and whoever gets the answer to the question will get their game analyzed. You can send any game that you prefer. It could be an online game or it could be an over-the-board game from some time ago, given that not many many over-the-board tournaments are happening right now. But any one of that is fine. I'm just going to wait a couple of minutes, let people get in. This is not a show. Well, I can call it a show, Sai. Why is it not a show? Grandmaster Game Analysis Show. How about that? We change our name to that. That will fit right in. Hope you're all doing great. We have actually a very busy week or weekend coming up, so maybe I'll just spend a few minutes explaining what are the things we do this weekend, so you guys can all be ready. Hey Dinesh, hi everyone else. So Sai says show doesn't sound right. Fine, let's leave it as Grandmaster Game Analysis for now. Oh, I'm getting challenges to Blitz already. Guys, come on. You always do this. Today is a game analysis time, okay? Tomorrow is when we actually play. But by the way, we have some changes. So let me make a few announcements before. This weekend is just like crazy chess activity weekend. We have so many cool things happening. So tomorrow at 3 o'clock, we are going to have a match. New Jersey and North Carolina kids are going to play against New York kids. So we are finalizing some ratings to see who are the ones who might be in a perfect way. We also got a lot of people emailing back saying they want to play in it, which is awesome. Unfortunately, we might not get all of you to play in it. We'll try our best, of course. But right now, it looks like about 30 players will play in it. About 30 players, and we'll probably do it in Lee Chess. We have to just iron out some logistics tonight. We'll do that and send out an email. If you get an email from us tonight, probably late in the night, then you are in for the team. If you didn't get an email, it's probably because you were back in the line and you get a chance. That would be unfortunate, but don't worry about it. You will definitely have more matches. I think these matches are fun, and we'll definitely do more of that. The next thing is we have a prize money blitz. I think Neil is pointing it out. Yes, we have instead of Challenger Coach, which is what we do every Friday at 6 o'clock. We have a small change this week. We are doing a prize money blitz tournament, and we are actually going to stream about the tournament in our YouTube channel. So you can still watch the games and everything, but people, you can actually play in the event. It's a 6-round blitz tournament. It starts at 6:15 p.m. 6 p.m. we start the stream. People can come in. We'll maybe play some friendly blitz matches or whatever that is. 6 to 6:15. We'll just kind of get ready, and 6:15 p.m. is when actually the tournament will start, and we will actually stream. We are probably going to only talk about positions that went past and not talk about the future, just to keep this clear, just in case someone's watching or something like that. So we don't want to do that. So we'll keep that way. But tomorrow, again, those who are seeing, we do not have tomorrow, that is June 12th. We do not have Challenger Chess Coach thing. Instead, we are doing a prize money blitz tournament. Now this is 6:15 p.m. But that's not the end of it. There's one more activity tomorrow that most of you know. That's the Mid-Atlantic Chess League. Now, I haven't gotten the pairings for the Mid-Atlantic Chess League yet. So once I get it, we'll update it and let people know on who is playing tomorrow. That is actually at 7 o'clock. That's a long game. That's G60. And it's a pretty long game. And people who have already signed up and who are already on the team, you'll be able to do it. The Blitz is going to be a little tight. That's right. So we're looking at a 3-minute, 2-second increment game. So you're like looking at 6 minutes per game, and you're looking at actually 6 games. So you're looking at 36 minutes. And that's probably discounting the increment. But my guess is it's probably going to be done. But if you're doing the New York match and if you're doing the Mid-Atlantic League, then maybe Blitz is too much. I would say you can do two things. 3 would be pushing it, but if you're up to it, you can do it. It's totally up to you guys. But again, 3 activities. This is pretty awesome that we have that on Friday. And Saturday, of course, we have a rematch against Chess Hobbit. So we're going to do a rematch at 5:30. The same time, we're going to stream. National Master Karthik Rangarajan will be also streaming with me in his YouTube channel. So we'll do that. Ryan, you want to do Blitz and Mid-Atlantic. You should be able to do that. Yes, it's possible. Let's just make sure that... I mean, I sent out some emails asking you guys some things. And tonight, you will get an email about updates with both. You'll get an email update on the Mid-Atlantic League, and you will get an email update on, the New York match. Yeah. Yes, Blitz is 3 minute. We're doing a 3 minute Blitz, if I remember right. Yes. All right. I think now that I've gotten all of those things out, let's get started. So today's question is hopefully not too difficult. By the way, I just also want to let you know that, if you've already gotten your games analyzed, wait for someone else to do it too. I want everyone to get a chance to do it. But of course, if no one else get it, you by all means. But if you have done it, then you can give someone else a chance too. I might be able to do multiple games depending on how interesting the game is. Get your games ready though. Get your games ready, and if you get the answer right, you can just email it to me right away. All right, here's a question for today's game analysis. There is a famous quote in chess that says, "Pawns are the soul of chess." Who said this? Which famous player said pawns are the soul of chess? And which famous player actually said it? The first person to give me this answer will get their games analyzed with me today. You can search it up too. But hopefully, I was hoping that someone knows it and will just say it. Oh, Coach John Brosnan is in, and he is the king of this, and he got it right. It is Philidor. I actually don't know his full name. It's a crazy long name. I forget it. I'm sure someone in the search can in the chat can look it up and get it. Aryan Agarwal says Edward Winter. Oh, Dinesh brought up the full name. I have no idea how to pronounce it. I'm sure some Francois Andre Daniken Philidor. I gave it a shot. Don't be mad at me. I probably messed it up big time. Anyway, so we got Philidor. Coach John, do you want to get one of your games analyzed? I'd be happy to analyze your game. I'm sure it'll be a very, very good game. So if you want to, you can email me your games. I mean, one of your game. Andre Philidor. I didn't know that. Oh, that's interesting. Philidor gave a lot of useful contributions to chess. And I think there are two main things. One of them is the Philidor's 6th rank cutoff rook and pawn in game, which everybody should know. And of course, the second one that like Neil points out is the Philidor's defense. I played the Philidor's defense a lot. In fact, I used to play it so much, but I have such a painful memory of that because in my very first World Youth Championship, which I was playing in Armenia in 1998, I believe, 1998, I had 6 points out of 7 and I was leading the tournament, and Ronian was playing in the tournament. He was playing behind me. I was like, very first World Championship, going all the way up. I played the Philidor's defense as black and lost to the leader. And that just gave me a painful memory. I played Philidor so many times, but that's one stuff that I remember. So, Boris Pravindas, that's right. Okay. Arnav, I cannot play a blitz game right now. Today, we are doing game analysis, and let's stick to that. I'm waiting for a game from Coach John. I think he will be emailing me a game in a couple of minutes, and then we can get started with the game analysis. Maybe towards the end, if you have some time, I can do other fun activities, but today is mainly going to be game analysis. It's more of an instructive thing. We can hang out here, have fun, you guys can ask questions, but it's more of a game analysis. Okay, I got the game. Awesome. Coach John, can you give us some background on this game? Who did you play against? Where did you play with? I'll of course look at it too. I think I got this here. Let's go back. All right, I think we got the game. A few years ago in French defense, so I'm guessing it was over the board, John, or was it something that you played in Elite Chess? Because this is Elite Chess, but it also says BCM Swiss Ridgewood, so I'm trying to figure out exactly which one it is. Over the board. Okay, perfect. All right, let's get started. I'm going to flip the board because we'll look at it from black perspective. John Broston. By the way, John Broston is a chess coach with us. He's a great guy. He's been teaching with us for several years. He's a very, very, I would say, passionate chess player. He keeps learning and he keeps improving continuously, and he loves to read these new books. So I'm happy to analyze your game, John. Let's go on. Let's start the game. E4, E6, D4, D5, Knight D2, Knight F6, E5. So we got the French advance, Knight of D7, F4. Okay, so this is the... Sorry, did I say advance? My bad. Yeah, Tarrasch. I played the Tarrasch as white. I just saw E5 and I randomly said advance. The Tarrasch defense, and I guess this is quite an interesting line. Again, I play this as white, and I also used to play this as black at some point. And Knight Gf3. Okay, so I played this knight over here a lot. Again, a very complicated line. Some basic things would go like takes, and there would be a check, and the king just goes to F2. So, but before the check, I guess there's Queen B6 and G3. Again, I don't remember the exact move order of this line, but there is some Queen B6, G3, G5. This line gets super, super crazy. Okay, Knight Gf3 is also done there. Let's see. Pawn takes, A5. If I remember right, if you play Knight Gf3, are you supposed to sacrifice a pawn in this line, or I'm trying to remember exactly what Knight Gf3 does? So for example, what if you play Queen B6 here and try to just catch the pawn right away? It looks like I might have to play something like Knight to B3, which looks a little suspicious because if you play A5 after that. So I don't know if you considered Queen to B6, John, and this is very early in the opening, so I'm not so sure. Let me actually quickly check the reference to see what is going on here and what is the opening theory. I don't want to say something that totally does not make sense. All right, so looks like Queen B6 is indeed one of the main moves here. So pawn takes, and Queen B6. So I think it might be a move that you might want to consider, particularly because this knight is on D2, right? Yeah, I think that knight goes to F3 and this knight goes here might be interesting. All right, so let's see. Queen B6 comes in. Queen B6 comes in later is what John's saying. Let's go on. A5, Bishop E7, castle, A4. Okay, so we have a standard expansion. The one thing I don't like what White's doing is ignoring this pawn. And G4 certainly looks bad at this point. I would definitely play Queen B6 here, John. I think I wouldn't wait anymore. There is no Knight B3, and I really don't know how he's going to save this pawn other than going back to B1. So that's kind of really bad situation for White. So I would force that as soon as possible. Is there any move here? Are we missing anything? No, there's no F5. I'm just taking on D4, and the knight goes nowhere else. Yeah, so I think Queen to B6 is better at this point. So after G6, for example, I think Black's still, of course, good here because of knight's placement, but I might play a move like this. You know, if you play Queen to B6 now, and now I get Knight to F1 because I have a different square and I'm still saving this pawn. And after H5, I can probably play H3. And maybe this rook will go to G2 to save this pawn. So I feel like timing is extremely important. So I know you wanted to stop F5, but I would probably play Queen B6 first. And one more thing is this, of course, should be a big point in this idea. He is castled, you're not castled. I would definitely consider h5 as well, because when h5 happens, if for whatever reason you're able to either make him push or take, then I think black is usually in a good shape, because f5 becomes your square. Even though it's going to take a while, you need to do that, and with this bishop being here, it's not easy. I would still keep an eye on that idea. So that seems fair enough, but okay. So g6, and your opponent continues to ignore, so I guess that's just real problem. Bishop d3 does not make any sense. Again, if you're playing the French Tarrasch and you're playing this f4, e5 line, e5 and f4 line, you have to remember that this pawn is a big problem. Well, white's a 2000 or 1900 is what it shows here. I guess John will be able to see exactly update us with the ratings. But queen b6, king h1, and knight takes d4. Okay, so it looks like there is no way to save this one. So after queen b6, we are just losing this pawn, and the only option was to probably play king h1. So knight takes d4, knight takes, queen takes, and I guess black is going for the classic give up that pawn for initiative. Again, it's not so uncommon. I mean, in this there are lines in which they would do this, you know, play knight f3 and try to just build some initiative. So white's down a pawn, but try to play for some initiative. Okay, but let's take a look at this position and see, can white actually build any initiative? f5 is, of course, a strong threatening idea. You cannot discount that. But I really doubt if white can generate anything super strong here. I mean, I'm not a big fan of this king either. So, I mean, it's, of course, this bishop looks really bad right now. But at some point, I mean, French players know this all the time. When this bishop actually becomes strong, it becomes deadly. So, with the king on h1, if d4 is possible, that's a big thing for black. Okay, again, it's too complicated to say immediately that black is better. But I would, if I have an option, I would probably pick black here, because I'm not so convinced that the pawn sacrifice is going to work. But let's see, f5 and knight c5 looks logical. The only other thing I might think about is if I should take this first and then play this. It looks super dangerous. The reason, of course, is to open this bishop. But it's extremely anti-positional, by the way. When I say e takes f5, I'm sure French players are going, ooh, not that move. Because this pawn hangs and everything. But again, I'm trying to think a little dynamic to see if I can open up this position and maybe try to attack the king. So I'm considering maybe capture, and let's say go knight c5. Just to see, I mean, there are e6 moves. That's, again, it's kind of complicated, not super easy. But if I win this bishop, I have to, again, say that if I'm able to trade this bishop, it's probably very comfortable for black. But maybe bishop e3. Okay, so this is quite interesting. Neil is suggesting why not f6, but I don't think we had the time to play f6, Neil. I think the only option for f6 is maybe here, or actually f5. f5 or f6 is kind of playable here. But, I mean, that would mean that I'm declining this pawn. But it's still quite interesting, actually, you know, because this pawn is almost yours. And after pawn captures, you can go knight f6. You're hitting this. I mean, it's not bad. This is still looking interesting to me. But let's go on with the game. I think I just want to pick up the pawn like John did and figure out things after that. And he has a point. He says, my king is in the middle. I didn't want to play e takes f5. Fair enough. Knight c5 looks actually more logical. That's the first move that came to my mind. I'm not a big fan of white's bishop to b1. I think this is probably required. If you're going to give up a pawn, I say this all the time to my students, that you guys have to understand the nature of the game and keep up with the flow. If you're giving up a pawn and you're playing for initiative, you have to continue that. You know, you want to give another pawn, go for it. Give up the other pawn. Develop your pieces, and that's more important. So that'll keep with the flow of the game, and it'll kind of keep it consistent on what white is doing. So the reason why I'm not a big fan of this is, I mean, one, of course, is that you have not really developed a piece. You're going back. Two is, I think, maybe knight e4. I don't know if knight e4 was a consideration. Knight e4 does look like a very interesting move. So let's try knight e4. I mean, in the game, I guess you went for the simpler, safer bishop to d7. Again, makes sense. Looks like a very solid move. I really want to get rid of that bishop. So, and I also don't mind losing this pawn at all. Because if I lose that pawn and I just go in here and it's game over. Because once that bishop on b1 is gone, and then I open the diagonal, it's basically game over. So I think this would be a very interesting move. Let's see what can white respond with if knight e4 is played. I mean, knight f2 is coming in. Any kind of capture seems totally useless, because if you capture this, I just take with a bishop maybe, and then again, I am completely developed. Up a pawn, no problems. Capture this is even worse, because now the rook opens up, and that's just completely bad for white. The only thing I can think of is this, to see if I can make this a little uncomfortable. And I'm not so sure again. Bishop c5 followed by bishop d7, and bishop here should be good. And one more thing is with knight e4, I'm threatening to play this check. Again, a tempo seems to be quite valid or useful for me. Anyway, so knight e4 is something that I would definitely consider here, John. So you played bishop to d7. Again, very solid. Seems logical. Knight g5 and bishop takes g5. Okay. Again, a move that would make things go like, ooh, do I have to play that move? But if you are really going for material, so it looks like you want this pawn and you're ready to give up your bishop for that. Let's take a quick look to make sure that's not too dangerous. Because after bishop takes g5, bishop takes g5, queen takes b2. I guess I have to move this bishop to maybe c2. It just seems a little risky. Was this really required? What is white threatening? Let's take a look at that. Yeah, that probably will help us understand what white is threatening. I'm just going to quickly try just a move like this. I mean, again, it's too brave maybe, possibly lost or something, I don't know. But we're going to try it. Because I want to play bishop c6 check, and I want to see what white's threatening. So can knight takes f7 work? Can pawn takes g6 or pawn takes e6 work? So you have to calculate these moves. Again, the reason I want to play d4 is after queen d4, I want to go bishop c6. But actually even that is not so clear. Yeah, queen d4, bishop c6, and then just king g1. So no, maybe rook d8. And again, this is kind of a different tangent. But I'm just curious. Let's see this. Knight takes f7. It might not be a problem for black. Because I might... Can I play this? Or I might have to go back. But I don't like going back. But I think things got super complicated. Does anyone see a good move for white? I think white can still make this complicated. Let's see if anyone has a nice move for white. That does take some guts to walk around with the king like that. But it might work. So should definitely try it. And with all your pieces lined up, I think it might be good. Queen f3 would be really nice. Unfortunately, bishop to c6, I think, would put a lot of problem for us. Again, you're down a lot of material. You're down a piece. So the only thing that white should do is play super aggressive. Let's see if anyone can come up with some super aggressive moves. Checks, captures, something like that. Right? Just go for it. I see one move. I want to see if someone can suggest that so we can start analyzing that move. There's one really nice move, guys. I don't know if it works, but it should be considered. Bishop f5 Arnav, that's right. Keep up with the flow. You committed yourself to doing this, go in full-fledged. That's what it is. After pawn captures, which seems pretty forcing, pawn captures check. So white's down 2 full pieces, but I think at least we made the position more interesting. Rook f6 was suggested, Raghav, but rook f6 is not going to work, I think. Because rook f6, I just go bishop takes, and I don't see a real follow-up. I mean, you want to sacrifice, but you want follow-ups. So, oh, what did I do? I think I messed up and went to the wrong square, wrong variation. Let's just go and have fun with this crazy variation that we just looked at. Bishop f5, g5, pawn f5. My guess is white should not have enough, because I feel like black has too much attack too. So maybe just even taking this pawn with the idea of bishop c6 and rook g8 might be good enough for black to win. I don't really see a forcing way for white to get back. I mean, like, too many pieces sacrificed. Like rook check or bishop check, I think I run in and I run in. And maybe more sacrifice is required. Anyways, I think this is just amusing to look at. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, guys. I feel like this is just interesting to look at. So, John, I am a little unsure about bishop takes g5. I mean, I know you're going for the pawn. You're going for the material. But maybe now... So, the reason why I'm saying this is because now I think white's attacking threats are actually a lot more dangerous. I feel like this bishop is a lot more dangerous right now. And, I mean, your opponent went for an all-out attack. I would probably just play bishop c2 here. And I think the position is kind of interesting. Because you can play d4 and bishop c6, but now I can go king to g1. And this diagonal is not that bad. This would be crazy. You can win one more pawn. This is Coach John Brosnan's game. This was played about 2-3 years ago. It seems like a very interesting French game where black is already up 2 pawns. Black is up 2 pawns and could have won the third pawn and queen takes e5. But white has some counterplay and attack. For example, queen e5, we probably go rook e1. Do we feel safe yet? I'm not so sure. I am not so sure. So just to show you a crazy variation, let's see what we can do. Queen c3. Makes sense, queen c3. Actually, I just noticed, guys, I can also play pawn takes c6, yeah? Because if you play queen takes g5, I can play pawn takes d7. And if you try to win this pawn back, I have bishop f6. So it seems like the position got crazy complicated already, right? So I don't know if you considered bishop c2, John, if that was part of your main analysis or variation. But bishop c2 seems like a move that needs to be considered. Because let's assume, let's say we play more realistic d4 with the bishop over here. Even that doesn't look that dangerous for white again. Because of the bishop c6 check, king goes to g1. This bishop on c2 clearly is helping stop the second rank. And it seems like, and it definitely seems like it's anybody's game. I mean, we might come back here and just explore this a little bit. But let's see. Your opponent seems to be like a daredevil, right? He just sacrificed on d4. I mean, right from the beginning, he did not really worry about the d4 pawn. And now he's giving up a rook. Whew. Okay, what do you guys think? Would you take that rook? If you have this game, would you take that rook? Obviously, white's threat is to go pawn takes g6, but that's not... oh, maybe pawn takes g6 is undefendable. Let's take a look at this, people. Queen takes a1, and Coach John asks the most important question. Can you take the rook? It's like the Anand, Kasparov-Anand famous World Championship match, 1995, where Kasparov sacrifices a rook for his brilliant game in the Ruy Open variation. That was awesome, and Kasparov came up with an amazing resource after sacrificing his rook. So I guess we have the big question like that. Do we take the rook? Do we not take the rook? Queen takes. By the way, I'm kind of feeling pretty bad about this. I'm not sure how I'm going to guard f7. Can I even guard f7, people? My dark squared bishop seems to really make a difference here. I wish black's dark squared bishop could have done something, but not. So queen f7 is checkmate. Guys, please do not think that this is going to be okay. I think some people think that castling is okay, but I'm sure it's basically checkmate in 2 moves. Queen f6 next, and then it's game over. So I think John, I think we have a straightforward answer. I don't see anything else except maybe is that f5? Ooh, I think f5 is possible. We cannot discount f5. So I'm kind of closing the file and buying myself a little bit more time. I don't know how much more, but at least some time. Yeah. Some of you are talking about castling. I just want to point out again that you cannot castle long because the bishop on g5 is blocking. So that's not possible. And you cannot castle short because the two bishops, the pawn and the queen, pretty much checkmates. So that's just game over if you castle short. We saw that briefly. But I'm curious to see this move f5. I think f5, you can do your en passant, of course. But then that allows me to castle long because you kind of blocked your diagonal. So I'm seeing some suggestions f6 and g7 and then castle. Yes, but I'll tell you something. Even here, is it so clear if I play something like g7? I mean, black is up a rook, all right. But white can easily win the rook back with these two pawns breathing down the neck. I mean, just, pretty much queening down here. That's, of course, one. But I also think white doesn't even have to do anything, these things. Maybe even just take here. And don't let this king escape anywhere. That's also very much possible. And there's also another interesting suggestion of playing this move, which I think is amazing. Actually, now that I think of this, this might be the winning move, guys. I'll tell you why. Because clearing up this diagonal probably is very useful. So again, black cannot castle. And black cannot do anything else. Rook g8 is probably the only move. And now watch this. If I take pawn takes pawn, other than all the moves that I'm probably threatening with f6, f takes e6 and all of those things, I'm threatening a checkmate. So this is what happens sometimes when we weaken one set of squares. The dark squares are so weak that a lot of these extra material just turns out to be useless. So even if rook takes pawn, maybe still check. Again, multiple ways to play this. I'm not sure exactly what's the winning move, but if king f8, maybe I can play this check, but maybe I can play this. I just think white's winning here. So let's go back again. So pawn takes pawn. The only move seemed to be like f5. There's nothing else. And g7. Again, do we see anything else? Nothing really. I could just play queen takes e5 and sacrifice that full rook. But that would be a losing position. Just to show you guys, after queen takes e5, pawn captures rook for a queen. Queen captures queen. And now pawn captures pawn. Again, the same old queen h5. Black is up what? Black is up 2 pawns in this position. But just not good enough because this king is just too weak. So, going back all the way, John, I think you made a great decision that you did not take the rook. I think taking the rook would have been a big problem. And queen f3 seems nice. But you played probably the best move. It makes a lot of sense to play d4 now. Because bishop c6 is your own threat and it's not easy to deal with. Only question is, can I sacrifice the queen? No, I cannot. Let me tell you what I was quickly looking at. I was thinking if I can take on g6 and take on f7 for a check and give up my queen. Because once bishop c6 happens, I think my queen's gone, yeah? I'm really not saving the queen anymore. So bishop c6 will definitely win the queen. But I think the most important thing was that I noticed that after pawn takes, this square becomes open. If the king had to go here, there is still cool stuff to do with bishop h6 check. And I think that's still very interesting. The king goes up, you queen, you win. I mean, still interesting at least to some extent. But king d7, I think black is just winning. You lost. Oops. My bishop's diagonal are a little off, but okay. We got this. So we got a bishop's diagonal with a pin. Bishop e4 is pretty useless because of bishop takes. And that's it. So, d4 strong. John, let's see. King to g1 was played. So I'm already not a fan of white's position anymore. When you have to play this in this position, I think it's too much. Bishop c6 seems very logical. Queen f2, okay. Cannot do that. That's basically resigning to the part where white says, I'll play down a couple of pawns in an endgame, but I don't want to get checkmated. And I also don't think there is much left. Maybe the only option to look at is queen to g3. I don't know why he didn't play queen to g3. I'm sure black is just winning here, but this is the move I would consider. Is there anything? Let's see. What can black do? Would you take the rook now? What do you guys think? Should I take the rook right now? It seems to me like I can, because after pawn takes, you just take back. Arnav's like, no, even now I don't want to take that rook. That rook seems too dangerous. Well, let's try a simple move like queen here. I mean, I'm pretty sure black is just winning. I'm just trying to see what's the best thing. I mean, if I play rook to h7, I think bishop takes g6. Yeah. Maybe some silly threats still left out. But I think other than that, we have nothing major. I mean, I can probably just castle. I know looks super dangerous, because after bishop f6, no guys, I think I made a big mistake. If castle, I think bishop here and then queen here, and I think that will be the end of it, unless I can create checkmate threats here. Oh yeah, even this works. Even this works. Castling was super dangerous, but even that works. So yeah, I could take the rook at this point. But queen f2, I think, is basically end of this. And I think I mean, we can go ahead and see this, but it's not probably that interesting anymore. But just curious to see one move back here. After queen takes b2, bishop c2 is the move we're looking at, and want to see if there is anything here that we can quickly conclude or try to evaluate. So I know we saw d4, and I know we looked at queen takes e5. I don't think I like queen takes e5. That seems too much opening of the position. How about bishop c6? But actually, I mean, I just feel like white gets to do all the things that we already talked about without giving the second rank problem or without losing that piece. So for example, I can play king over here. You can play d4, right? But there's no checkmate. It seems to me that white is definitely in a much better spot than what happened in the game. So clearly that's a big difference. Ooh, Manish likes this game a lot. I like that. So Coach John picked a great game for us because it's super aggressive, right? It's a classic question of material versus initiative. Yeah, I mean, most of our games have this great imbalance of long-term and short-term advantages, and long-term advantage would be material. And black is up 2 pawns in this position. White has amazing initiative though. So after d4, I'm just going to spend a couple of more minutes in this position and then move back to our actual game and see how John outplayed his opponent. But I'm kind of curious to see what white can do here. I want to see if white can attack. You guys can suggest a move for me right now. Well, actually, in this case, John was the greedy one. He took the material. He didn't sacrifice. Just clarifying. I don't know which way Luis wants to play. I'm also usually the same thing, John, Coach John. I probably belong to more of grabbing material kind. So the most natural thing that comes to me is to say, let me take the stuff and figure out what happens. Or let me take the stuff and ask the question to my opponent to see what happens. So I'm hearing f takes e6. Okay, let's look at this. One of the issues I might have is, what if I take with the knight? I think you gave me a great square. And I don't like this knight coming here because it's also guarding this. Which means, if you play a move like bishop f6, I can castle. By the way, this reminds me of a very, very funny story I once had. I was playing, I think this was about 10, 11 years ago. I was actually a Grandmaster, and I was playing a tournament in Singapore. And my opponent played bishop to f6 like this, in this sort of a position, and I suddenly blanked. I didn't know if I could castle. I was sitting there thinking, can I actually castle here? Is it legal? I totally forgot. I was blanking him. So I walked up to the tournament arbiter and I asked him, is it okay to castle when your rook is under attack? And he just looked at me. He's like, what? You're a grandmaster and you forgot this? I was like, I don't know. I'm just having this moment where I completely lost. I'm not able to recollect that. And he said, yes, you can. So it was a crazy incident and I will never forget it. So bishop f6 and a castle. Yeah, with the knight on e6. The good news is with that incident, I remember that I can castle after that though. Well, I have a lot of stories to make you feel better, Coach John. Don't worry about it. Plenty of stories, plenty of embarrassing stories. But, you know, that's part of life, I guess. We have some crazy things that happen. But f takes e6, I'm not a big fan of. So let's see if one last ditch effort for white to come up with something. Can I play rook b1? If I play rook b1, I think you play queen takes a2 if you need. I don't see why not. And with the idea of queen d5. So nope, I don't want to do that. I think that gives black a very critical extra move. So let's not do that. If white cannot find anything concrete here, I think black is fine. That's the beauty and the curse of initiative. If you play with initiative, you have the chance to call the shots, but you also have to call the shots. If you cannot, it's over here. Your initiative is done and it's game over. Okay, I think I'm kind of convinced that this is pretty much over. Maybe queen d2 is possible. I want to play something like this. No, I think queen d2 runs into knight e4 maybe. Oops, knight e4 probably not possible. Very quickly, I'll show you why. Bishop takes, because now this is a check. Intermediate moves are awesome because after queen takes, bishop takes e6 check, and then I pick this back up. Just to clarify why knight e4 is not possible. So then this is not such a bad idea because I do have rook f to b1. So Luis is reminded of a Korchnoi game. Very interesting. I don't know which one it is, Luis. Probably have to take a look at it. By the way, queen d2, guys, I'm sorry. I think not thinking best here. Queen c3 seems very simple. Not enough. All right. I think the position is concluded that black definitely has enough for the material. The only question was bishop takes g5 if it was necessary. And I think you most clearly avoided taking that rook, which seems like a very good decision, John. So let's see the end of this game after the queen trade, which I think is pretty much the game. Are we not winning a pawn here? John, I think this seems to be like a free pawn because I cannot capture back because of rook g8. So this would have been probably even strong. This is just like game over. You're already up 2 pawns. You can pick up the third one. Just to show everyone after pawn captures, I think rook here. That's the end of that bishop because h6 is coming next. And if you cannot capture it, maybe bishop f6, but then I just go rook g8. I think this pawn is kind of falling. And not only that, the king is just super weak, you know. Look at what's going to happen when I go here or when I go here. So not only will black be up material, black will also be attacking. So I think that's basically game. But d3 looks good. You're still completely dominating. But the only problem is white still has chances. You guys have to remember that. Only because of this. Maybe against this or something like that, right? This king still needs to figure out some ways. Even if I castle, I still have some problems because all the dark squares are kind of open. Oh, not the red arrow. All the dark squares are open in front of the king. So it's probably tricky. So let's see what happened. Bishop e3 attacking the knight. Knight e4. Okay, so rook b2, I guess. Rook g2. I was thinking the rook probably can go to b2 with the idea of taking this pawn. I guess he's going to g2. I don't like this discovered attack. I don't know what white is trying to do by doing that. Probably just rook d8 here or castle long, even better. Right. So castle long and I think. I was John is saying I don't want to let the LSB and rook out. I was wondering what is this LSB? It's okay. Light squared bishop, I guess. Uh, Fair enough. The light squared bishop is stuck. But okay, I think at this point it's game over because no matter where the rook moves, I think you just castle long. So for example, rook b2, you just castle long. I mean, once the king finds safety, it's just game over. Yeah, it just doesn't have any issues anymore. So okay, rook g2, castle long, f6. Okay, a3. Ooh, you're really killing this bishop and this rook, I guess. Yeah, they're going nowhere. King f1, bishop to a4. Okay, I guess you want to play d2 d1 queen, I guess. Bishop a4, king e1, rook to d7. I like this. You're totally taking your time because I think white has nothing to do. I really have to have my bishop and my rook and my king for this pawn, because otherwise I get to play d2. You're going to play this move next and then play d2 anyways, I guess. So g5, rook h d8, bishop to d2, rook c7, rook to g4. Did I get a chance to come back in this game? What is going on here? Oh, you just stopped it with rook c4. Makes sense. I also can play bishop c6 or knight c5. It doesn't matter. Yeah. So this is just, like Coach John points out, this is pure torture. These are the kind of games I love playing because I know, I mean, it's one of those famous interviews by Bobby Fischer where he says his most favorite part of the game is when he knows that he got his opponent, right? You know, kind of look in their face telling them that then they're lost and you got them, you're crushing them. So, I mean, I have to say that's just really appealing. When you're playing someone and you know that you outsmarted them or you outplayed them, you figure out something that they didn't, right? And that's why we play chess. I would say most players, at least I cannot speak for everyone, but in general, that's the pleasure, right? When you outplay your opponents. And this is a great example. I think black totally dominated. The initiative was done and black totally dominated. All right, so I guess we are done with the game because after rook f4, knight d2, white lost a piece and game over, which means we have about 10 minutes. I could analyze another really quick game if someone has it, but I don't know if we will have the time to probably email it out. Let's see. There are some questions. Maybe I can answer those questions. If white makes a waste move here, could you go bishop d1? Bishop to d1. Ooh, I like that. Let's play a move like h5 and see what it is. Bishop to d1. I like your style, but are you not giving me two pieces, Dinesh? Because I might take this first, yeah? I might take on e4 first. And after rook takes e4, then I take here. Having said that, this just doesn't change the result much because after rook takes h4, rook h1 is still pretty much game over. I don't see how these two pieces are never coming out. So it still doesn't change anything. Let's see. Yeah, this is lost. All right, going back. So we have about 10 minutes. I'm trying to see what is the best thing we should do. What do you guys think? I'll give you guys a few options. Actually, I don't know. I have a question for viewers. I like that, John. Go on. Coach John has a question for viewers. Maybe if someone can quickly get an answer and quickly get their game in, I can do one more game really quickly. Blitz, Neil. Neil wants to play Blitz. Or maybe I can show you the famous endgame, Neil. The famous endgame in which you swindled your opponent in a beautiful, beautiful king and pawn endgame. Okay, let's see Coach John's question. I don't know if what is the question in that, Coach John? Current Indian GM has a really cool nickname. Adiban the Beast, that's right. I think Dinesh said Abhinan. Dinesh, you could send me a quick game. I don't have a lot of time, but I will try to, analyze a game. Maybe pick one that is not like 70 moves. If you want to send me a game, Dinesh, I can look at it. Do you want to do it? In the meantime, I am going to show this endgame because Neil is asking this by popular, I guess by popular request. This endgame is in my memory very clearly because this is one of the craziest endgames I probably have seen. Let's something like this. In the meantime, I'm still going to wait for one more email from Dinesh. I guess Dinesh is the one who won this. Yeah, Dinesh, send it. I'm just going to show this very funny story from Amateur East 2020. Yeah, I cannot believe that. We were actually playing in person at that time, yeah? Not a long time ago, a few months ago. So we had this position in one of my teammates' board. Neil Summit was playing black. I mean, the king and queen might be slightly different. He says he played queen d3 check, and the king was on g3. Well, I was going to show that the king eventually goes to g3. I mean, I'm just going to show that the whole idea was, would you try to win this game as white or would you try to make a draw? Yeah. So then I was kind of looking at this like, okay, there's no way white can be in trouble. This pawn is just too strong. In fact, white's probably much better even before this. And then, so after check and check, but white decided to try to win this game and went king g3. And after queen d3 check, king here, and then queen to d8. Believe it or not, this endgame is winning by force for black. I mean, this is a really, really cool endgame. I'll show you quickly. I'm still waiting for Dinesh's game. Maybe Neil can also jump in with this analysis. I think you did mess up. I remember that. You blundered for a draw and your opponent blundered to lose the game again. I remember that. Let's take a look at this really quickly. Yeah. So queen takes d8, king takes d8. I guess king g5 or king g5 directly, I think, is the best move. And after queen takes, well, you can, there are a couple of ideas here. If you wait any further to play a move like a5, what happens after a5? I just don't remember. After a5, I think this is just probably a transposition. That's right. Queen takes, king takes, and king e8. So the other transposition, I guess, is to just take queen takes, king takes. I think this kind of transposes. But I have a feeling something is wrong with a5. I cannot remember that. Maybe there's nothing wrong. But okay, let's go on. So the idea is you play queen takes f6, king takes f6 and a5. And you go king e5, a4, king d4. This, king here, you play a3. Just in time to trade this off. Pawn takes, king here. King goes here. Takes. And the beauty is this king just comes in just in time to win one pawn. But white can still do some damage control. Watch this. The king comes back. Takes and takes. Now the funny thing is, I think it's not easy to win this endgame if you don't know what you're doing. So Coach Luis thinks queen e7 is winning. Actually, it's not. If you play queen e7, you're lost. So if you get a little greedy, Coach Luis, you would be in trouble. Because you will run into Zugzwang. You have nothing better to do but to move the king back and forth. And I'm going to play h4, h5 basically. You don't have h6 check because king takes. So b4 and it's game over. So queen e7 looks really nice, but nope, it doesn't work. So going back to this position. Oh wait, where we are? We are here, yeah? So this endgame is what I'm talking about. If you guys have not seen this endgame or studied this endgame, I would recommend that you guys study this, you know. We have a future Grandmaster chess program that some of our students attend. And we have talked about these endgames very specifically. What it does is that, you know, you need to know the winning positions. To know this, how to win this endgame, you need to know at least like 3 or 4 basic endgames. And know what the evaluation is before you decide. Let me see if I got a game from Dinesh in the meantime. If not, I guess we'll just talk about this endgame and wrap it up at that. Yeah, I don't see a game from Dinesh yet. Game is in chat. You send me a game in chat? Okay. Really? I don't see it. Is this like an attachment, Dinesh? I'm not sure exactly how to see this, see that game. But Dinesh, what we're going to do is we're going to hold off on that because it's like, we have only 4 minutes left. And also we have this endgame. We'll just finish this endgame, okay? And maybe next time you'll get a chance to do your game. Okay, just quickly talking about knowing this theoretical endgame to be able to win. I guess I'll show you what mistake that Neil did, and then it's okay because a lot of players make some mistakes, and particularly it's understandable because by this time both players were really low on time and they were kind of playing on increment, and it was not an easy thing to do. You have to know your endgames inside out here, but I'm sure Neil knows his endgame now. Okay, let's see what was the first thing. Yeah, so I mean all these pawns kind of came up, and let's say all these pawns kind of came up, and let's say white didn't do anything and you got this position. So you have like 3 simple options. I want to ask viewers, what would be your call? You can play f3, you can play g3, you can play h3. Which move do you think will win the game for black? Oh, Neil is honest. He says he had 9 minutes. With 9 minutes, Neil, you should know exactly what to do. I'm getting some moves. Manish says g3. What else do we have? What other moves? I have a couple of g3s. A lot of g3s. I got g3 and f3 there. Okay. Interesting. So no one goes for h3. That's good. Arnav goes for f3. Ridhima wants to play f3. Interesting. Okay, so still no one for h3. Happy. I don't think h3 would make a lot of sense in general because I mean you would just always put me in some kind of a stalemate situation. However, I think h3 could win with some timing. The only mistake, a definite mistake I know is f3. So let's look at f3 first. I think h3 is also a draw. g3 is the win, by the way. Let's look at why f3 is a draw. So if you guys have studied your basic endgames, you should know that with this pawn being on h3, this is actually a win for black because it's called the triangulation position, or it's corresponding squares or triangulation. How does it work? Let's do this. If I play h3, if you make the same position black to play, you win. So how do you do that? You play that, and now you kind of do a small triangulation, and then you lose a move in this triangulation. Why is that important? Because I think I can use my different colors. So c7 and c5 are corresponding squares. Let's try yellow. Okay, good. d6 and d8 are corresponding squares. Red. Okay. d5 and c8 are corresponding squares. So if you keep going to these squares, white just keeps following you. So I go here. Okay, corresponding square. Corresponding squares. So usually what corresponding square means is that if you move to one of the squares, I have a corresponding square. I go there, it's a draw. Right? I have to be there. And if I can go there, I'm still holding on. So what you want to do is get them off the corresponding square. So when you go to c4, you're able to go to c5 and d5, right? Which means white should be able to go to c7 and here, which gives them only 2 options. They can do it from d8 or they can do it from b8. So that's why if you go here now, or actually once they go king d8 or b8, doesn't matter, you go king d4. Now it's just winning. Because now you're going to go to these 2 squares, and the only way they can catch up is to go to this square, which they cannot jump. And if they go king d5, now you go to the corresponding square. You go to the corresponding square. So eventually it becomes white to play and you get in. A simple theme, but of course you have to study it multiple times. You won't be able to remember this just by looking at it once. But the point is, you get to the same endgame with the pawn on h2. So I guess that's the biggest difference. So what white would do is go here and give up that opposition. You go here for opposition, I'll go here. Usually this would win if white doesn't have any extra moves. But guess what? White does have an extra move. And that is a draw. Dinesh, this is not distance opposition. We'll maybe talk about distant opposition in a different series. But this is just wasting moves basically, right? White has that move, and that's why this is a draw. Basically, this is what happened in the game. And White did play King E1, I think. He played King E1 in the game, if I remember right, Neil. And what happened was he played this, and then he realized he cannot play F2. So Neil kind of hung out here a little bit more. And in time trouble, his opponent this time went back to F1 by mistake. And now what happened was, now pawn pushed king here. And now he could force that stalemate situation, get him to play H3, and then move out of the way. And now this is how black won. So this is basically what you need to know. Some basic endgame. Now, what else do you need to know? Here, you need to know that G3 wins. Why? Because this position is just an easy win for black, whether it's white to move or black to move. Because you will get to play, at some point, move the king all the way into E2 and then play F3. Just letting you know, you cannot play F3 directly. One big mistake. I'll just show this position as black to play. So you know the big mistake. There are a lot of times black will play F3 here. I've seen this so many times. After pawn captures, you think king here. And if king here, you play king here and you win the game because you're getting G2. And if I play king F1, you get king F3. Awesome. But guess what? F3 check, they'll play king F1. And king E3, they'll play king G1. And that's it. No matter what you play, I capture this pawn. You got a draw. So the only thing you need to avoid is to play F3. Just hang around here. And there's another triangulation, by the way. You can go back. And you got the same triangulation position. And you move the king in, yeah? So you keep moving the king in. The usual opposition stuff. You move the king in. And you get to E2. And then you time your move F3. So when pawn captures, you play king F2. So, okay. So, Neil, that is right. I mean, it would be frustrating if you get to these endgames. There are thousands of endgames like this. That's why I tell my students, you need to know this. You need to study this like inside out. Because when you actually get to this in a game, you should not feel like, oh, wait, this looks familiar. You should feel like, I know this, right? Otherwise, you're not going to be able to really reproduce the moves. All right, guys. That was fun. That was fun. So, Coach John Brosnan gave us a beautiful game. And then we also had a really nice king and pawn in game conversion to a king and pawn in game win from Neil Samant. So, don't forget that tomorrow at 6:15, there is our online blitz. At 3 o'clock, we have our new match against New York. If you guys are selected, you will get an email. And you can just follow the instructions from the email and play that game. I guess otherwise, we're all done and we're good. Blitz game, I cannot play a blitz game right now. Tomorrow, I'll play some fun blitz games. So if you come online at 6 o'clock, I will play some blitz games tomorrow. Before the start of the session. 6:15 is where the tournament starts. Alright guys, thank you everyone for watching the show. Keep playing, keep practicing. I will see you guys tomorrow.